हरि ओम।
Okay, let's start. प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणां मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते। बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनम् पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। We'll chant from verses 50 to 54 of chapter 2. Verse number 50 to 54. बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व योगः कर्मसु कौशलम् बुद्धियुक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृतदुष्कृते तस्माद्योगाय युज्यस्व योगः कर्मसु कौशलम् कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ता हि फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः जन्मबन्धविनिर्मुक्ताः पदं गच्छन्त्यनामयम् कर्मजं बुद्धियुक्ता हि फलं त्यक्त्वा मनीषिणः जन्मबन्धविनिर्मुक्ताः पदं गच्छन्त्यनामयम् यदा ते मोहकलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतितिरिच्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतवस्य श्रुतस्य च यदा ते मोहकलिलं बुद्धिर्व्यतितरिष्यति तदा गन्तासि निर्वेदं श्रोतव्यस्य श्रुतस्य च श्रुतिविप्रतिपन्ना ते यदा स्थास्यति निश्चला समाधावचला बुद्धिः तदा योगव्यवाप्स्यसि श्रुतिविप्रतिपन्ना ते यदा स्थास्यति निश्चला समाधावचला बुद्धिः तदा योगमवाप्स्यसि। अर्जुन उवाच स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम् अर्जुन उवाच स्थितप्रज्ञस्य का भाषा समाधिस्थस्य केशव स्थितधि किं प्रभाषेत किमासीत व्रजेत किम्. Okay, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Hanji, Rashmi.
So in the verse 47, in the text, there is written that the children form likes and dislikes and parents encourage it. So I wanted to understand how parents should not encourage it and how can they manage that.
I don't know exactly where in the text it is. Just for the sake of people, we can maybe. I think this is where it is. Where is this written in the text? Which paragraph?
It's in 48.
48, is it? Okay.
People entrap themselves thus by developing a host of likes and dislikes from early childhood. Paragraph. As a child, you start entertaining certain likes and dislikes. Unfortunately, others around you encourage, nourish, and nurture them. Your parents feed your likes and dislikes.
Yeah. Okay. So, your likes and dislikes, your preferences, your attachments and aversions, these are natural developments of the mind. The nature of the mind is that whatever it meets, it develops either a like or dislike for. And that grows into an attachment or aversion. What you like, you grow attached to. What you dislike, you grow averse to. Right? Now, per se, there is no problem with likes and dislikes if you don't grow attached or averse to them. It's like, I don't like amla juice. I still have it every other morning. You dislike it, but you're not averse to it. Why? Because you understand. So per se, your likes and dislikes are not a problem so long as they don't control your action. So long as they don't determine what you do and what you don't do. So long as your action is determined by what you ought to do for your well-being and for the well-being of those around you, likes and dislikes are not a problem. But when your likes and dislikes turn into the sole determinant of what you do and what you don't do, जब एक जिद बन जाती है, मुझे ये करना है, मेरी ये इच्छा है, मुझे ये नहीं करना है, I don't like this. Because when likes and dislikes determine what you do and what you don't do, you develop an attachment and an aversion. You develop a preferential treatment. You'll give preferential treatment to what you like. You'll give preferential treatment to what you don't like. You'll particularly disregard it. That's when it becomes a problem. So everybody has likes and dislikes. No person out here, even a sage, has likes and dislikes. I remember whenever we used to go to Swamiji's house in the bungalow. There's a bungalow in the Vedanta Academy where he lives. So sometimes he used to invite us for breakfast, or we used to go for some work and he used to make us sit for breakfast. And he used to eat bread with Marmite. You know Marmite? What is the difference between Marmite and termite?
Marmite is delicious. Sorry to interrupt.
So, to some people, including me, because I like a tangy, slightly pungent flavor, Marmite is delicious. But I think to 98% of people I know, they can't stand that. They can't stand Marmite. But Swamiji sweared by it. He used to love it. He used English. He spent his formative years in. So, Marmite is delicious, but for whom is the question. Everybody has likes and dislikes. Even a sage has likes and dislikes. But if that likes and dislikes, see, It may sound very simple that I'm speaking it right now, but your likes and dislikes grow they become a torrential force. When that like and dislike turns into an attachment and an aversion, when how difficult is it to deal with a obstinate person? जिद्दी आदमी के साथ कितना मुश्किल होता है उसे संभालने का, right? It's difficult, and you lead yourself to ruin. All addictions start off with likes and dislikes. They start off as innocuous, but if you fuel them, they turn deadly. All addictions start off as mere likes and dislikes, mere passions. Now, these likes and dislikes are what you collect from childhood, right? So, what he's pointing out is that while your mind will naturally collect them, your parents must instill in you a sense of duty rather than a sense of desire. You should, in the face of your like and dislike, you should also have the capacity to measure what should be done and what should not be done, what you ought to do and we're not saying you should always do what you dislike. We're not saying we should always not do what you like. We're not saying you should discard what you like. We're not saying you should pick up what you dislike. But the nature of the mind is also such that your mind tends to like that which gives you instant gratification. Your mind tends to dislike what is painful. And it is also a law that what is pleasurable in the beginning is painful in the end. What is painful in the beginning turns out to be pleasurable in the end. These are all general laws. So if you put all of them together, a general equation is what your mind rushes towards, what it tends to like, is actually not that beneficial for you. So you should have the buddhi to understand that. You should have the buddhi to regulate, moderate. You should have the buddhi to choose wisely. That's it. If your intellect is determining what you should and should not do, there's no problem with likes and dislikes. They are under the supervision, the control of the purveying intellect. But if your intellect is absent, if you don't have any capacity to think, reason, judge, decide, no sense of proportion, if you are an obstinate personality, your likes and dislikes completely overtake your personality and cause harm to you and to others. So, what to do with children? Teach them the capacity to think. Because you can't be a police to them. If you try to be a police to them, first of all, they'll turn around and tell you, why are you not doing this? Your child is smarter than you think. And whatever is forced is not forceful. If you try to be a police to them, they'll rebel. So policing others' likes and dislikes does not work. The idea is to give a direction and cultivate the capacity to think in an environment of freedom. You know, in the ashram, it is a thing that you don't go out, So, you are not meant to go home. You're not meant to go anywhere else. Oh, my friend is coming to Bombay. I want to go visit them. Sorry, you can't do that. If they really want to come, they can take permission and come to the ashram. So, you want to go watch the new movie, go to Pune or Lonavala to watch the new movie. Sorry, no such. I mean, that was the general rule. That was the direction. But the nature of the mind is such that if you force it, it'll rebel. If it was forced, what would happen? People would. So it's a fine balance. You have to guide, but also not force. People suddenly would develop lots of aches and pains in the ashram, I have to go for a doctor's visit. That used to be the best excuse to go to Pune. In fact, Swamiji, half of the times, he would put everyone, even I had braces in the ashram, Best time to get braces. No one will look at you. You're not interested in looking at anyone else. What's the problem? So people would ask Swamiji, why Why you put everyone with, into an orthodontal treatment? Why do you get everyone braces while they're in the course? He said one is to make them look better. People don't take care of the teeth. Second is to give them an excuse to leave the ashram. So an environment of freedom where there is the direction given. The ashram has a direct guideline, but also freedom. No one is policing the main gate. Are you going? Are you coming? Sure, if someone is becoming too indulgent, someone every day is sneaking out to Lonavala, then they would get a talk. What are you doing? What's happening? But no policing, no fear. You're not terrified. There was nobody to be terrified in the ashram. So I thought it's a beautiful example to give of an environment of freedom with a general guideline of values. So give your child values. First of all, if you're giving your child values, you have to follow it yourself. So preach what you practice. Don't practice what you preach. Preach what you practice to your child, and then let them choose. Yatha ichhasi tatha kuru. That's the only way. I am saying all of this without having a child. This is all theoretical knowledge. Now ask people who have actually had children what's worked for them. But I'll be surprised if something else has worked for them. Through hook or by crook, through error or trial and error, I'm sure this is what has worked for them.
You have been a child, right?
Correct. Indeed. Well said. That definitely worked for me.
पुरानी कहावत भी है कि आमले का खाया हुआ और सियाने का कहा हुआ बाद में याद आता है.
Well said. Okay. So we are building up to a beautiful portion of chapter 2. In this section now, last verse, we saw a definition for yoga in 48.
Thank you, sir.
Anji, I hope that answered your question. In 48, we saw a definition for yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga is that equanimity. Evenness is called yoga. And as you progress on the path of yoga, you develop a sense of evenness. And then he said, far superior to action, to karma, is buddhi yoga. Here he uses the word yoga in combination with buddhi. He doesn't use yoga with karma because he's not referring to karma yoga. Karma yoga is the combination of action and buddhi. When buddhi comes together to guide your action, when knowledge fuels your action, it becomes karma yoga. Action without knowledge, action out of ignorance, indulgent action, action out of desire-riddenness is not karma yoga, right? So far superior to mere mundane action, mere indulgent action is action guided by buddhi. One entangles you in samsara, one elevates you and frees you from the bondage of samsara. It's poles opposite. And those whose motive is mere fruit, those who are mundane in their outlook, those who simply want more name, fame, wealth, pleasure, power, enjoyment, if that's all one can seek, the Lord uses the word wretched for them. Kripana, they are wretched. They are animalistic. You are born into this world to be a human being. The stature of a human being, what sets them apart from an animal, is the spirit of inquiry into something bigger, greater, grander in life. If all your purpose is to merely cater to your senses or your desires, then what separates you from an animal? So wretched are those whose motive is fruit. And he continues in verse number 50. Here he gives another beautiful definition for yoga. He gave a definition in verse 48. In verse 50, he'll give another beautiful definition. Buddhi yukto jahatiha ubhe sukrita dushkrite tasmad yogaya yujyasva yogah karmasu kaushalam बुद्धि युक्तो जहातीह उभे सुकृत दुष्कृते तस्माद् योगाय युज्यस्व योगः कर्मसु कौशलम्. Buddhi yukta, united to knowledge, one sheds here both good and bad deeds. Sukrita dushkrite. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga. Tasmad yogaya yujyasva. Be united with yoga. Devote yourself to yoga. And a beautiful definition. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Skill in action is yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. United to knowledge, one sheds here both good and bad deeds. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga. Skill in action is yoga. Samatvam yoga uchyate, evenness is yoga. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Skill in action is yoga. Two beautiful definitions. If someone is confused, what is yoga? Especially if a foreigner asks you, what is yoga? Now you can give them a lecture. Actually, yoga is not standing on your head. Yoga is given two beautiful definitions in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. Yoga karmasu kaushalam and samatvam yoga uchyate. Incredible definitions. So, what is yoga? Yoga is doing your action to the best of your ability, skillfully, with dedication, with mastery. See, the entire focus is on the action, not on the outcome. How can you do your action with dexterity? So, united to knowledge, one sheds here both good and bad deeds. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga. In the verse number 49, he said, far superior is knowledge to action. And here he says, united to knowledge, one sheds here both good and bad deeds. So, what I was talking to you about in the beginning of class, that the path of yoga helps you evolve, helps you shed your vasanas, helps you liberate yourself from samsara. Whereas the path of mere mundane action, karma, not karma yoga, mere karma, mere indulgent action, mere desire-ridden action, entangles you further in the bonds of samsara. It makes you caught up in a web of entanglement. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. You'll be born again and again, and you'll be like a chicken running without a head. God knows what you'll be chasing. Every lifetime you'll be born, you'll grow, you'll live your life, you'll decay and you'll die. And again you'll be born, you'll grow, you'll live your life, you'll decay and you'll die. Same thing over and over and over again. Not knowing what you want, not knowing what you're chasing. What are you looking for? At some point you have to step back and ask yourself, what is the purpose of all of this? Vedanta doesn't tell you you should look for this. Vedanta wants you to step back and question and simply ask the question, what am I here for? Is it a little more pleasure? Is it a little more wealth? Little more name and respect, a legacy? Is that it? And when you develop this kaleidoscopic view of life, when you develop this panoramic view of life through various lifetimes, when you realize that your life didn't begin at birth and your life doesn't end at death, it's an endless chain of birth and death, then you will develop the curiosity, the inquiry to step out of it. That is the power of this knowledge. It helps you step out of this cycle of birth and death, this chain of birth and death. So, united to knowledge, you shed both good and bad deeds. This cycle, this chain is simply an entanglement of good and bad deeds. If you do good deeds, you evolve to a stage of pleasure and heaven, and then you do bad deeds and you devolve and get further entangled. That's simply what it is. And as you do good deeds and evolve, you get complacent, and then you are back to your corrupt ways. And when you go to your corrupt ways, you suffer, and then you work to redeem yourself. And then you again go become good, you become complacent. It's a sinusoidal, good and bad deeds. But to ask that ultimate question, what lies beyond all of this? When you unite yourself to this highest knowledge, you shed both good and bad deeds. You go beyond tamas, you go beyond rajas, and you even go beyond sattva. That's what he means. Therefore, devote yourself to yoga. Unite with yoga. Get onto the path of yoga. Performing your action to the best of your ability, understanding your role, and doing what you ought to do to the best of your ability, skillfully, with dexterity, is yoga. Beautiful definition of yoga. So, see, they are linked. It's not that they are unrelated definitions. When you focus on this, automatically you become even.
Utsav, how do we define good and bad deeds?
Um,
Like a person doing a deed with no, like a bad deed also without any guilt. What is that deed for him then?
no, there are, see, I get what you're saying. On the one hand, good and bad are very relative, and they're very social definitions, what society considers good and bad. On the other hand, if you have to have an objective definitions, actions that are selfish are good, are bad. Actions that are unselfish are good. Right? Those performed for one's own benefit at the cost of others is bad. Those performed for the welfare of others in a spirit of dedication to others is good. Actions that are egoistic are bad. Actions that are cast aside ego are good, right? And they differ in degree, right? Less ego, more ego. Less selfish, more selfish, right? So it's a difference in degree. So if you have to have an objective definition, this could be your sort of scale, right? Between the scale of egoistic to egoless, selfish to unselfish, right? That could be your scale of what is good and bad. Generally, in Vedanta, when we see the word good and bad, we understand it as selfish and unselfish. Bad is selfish, and good is unselfish. Yeah. See, this has nothing to do with your sense of guilt. Remember, I've said last time also that you may not be sinning, but that doesn't mean your karma is not getting impacted. Your karma and sin have nothing to do with each other. Right? Karma functions.
Sorry, correct me if I am wrong. But I have understood that we should not be mechanical in our action. Instead, we should use our buddhi to discern, to act only, to act. That's all.
Indeed. So well said. Yeah. Don't be mechanical in your action. Develop that capacity to apply yourself in your action. That, see, kaushalam, skill, is not only limited to maybe a technique of performing the action, but also how conscious and how with what awareness you can perform it, right? So bringing your buddhi to the action is very much important as opposed to mechanically doing it. Absolutely.
Because many times we are acting only mechanically.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Without putting any thoughts.
Yeah.
Anji.
Could yoga be addressed to your family? Could you do yoga for your husband, for your wife, for your children, for your neighbor? Could yoga be dedicated to that? Or is it related to the higher ideal that we all are looking for?
Yoga, when you see it totally depends on your on how you perceive your family and those around you. If you view them from a point of view of attachment, right? Then it is
You view them as your duty.
so. If you view them as your duty, it's 100% yoga. You have a role you are playing,
Right.
so it's 100% yoga.
Because a lot of us, I mean, we are all grihasts, and we're married and we have children and we have our duties. So performing the duty to the best of our ability as the best that we know, as skilled as we know. Still we make mistakes. I mean, there are so much that we still don't know. But my question is like, could I dedicate that as my yoga?
100%. I mean, that's why we are talking. I mean, that's what we mean, that this knowledge is meant for your house and your business. It's meant for your relationships, right? When you apply this knowledge to your relations, you develop harmony in relationships, right? So when you do such action for your family towards your responsibilities, in the spirit of yoga, with kaushal bhav, then automatically you become samatvam, you become equanimous, even, right? So indeed, this is your dharma kshetra, this is your kurukshetra, right? This knowledge is meant to guide you through this journey of a grihastha. In fact, it's the most important time of your sadhana. The most important time of your sadhana is this grihasti, because this is when the bulk of your vasanas, the bulk of
वो
your
आपका ब्लड टेस्ट करते हैं.
this is when the bulk of your vasanas are manifest. This is when you need this knowledge to be applied to give you the right direction, right? So absolutely. I mean, in short, to answer your question, this is this is yoga. We've said before, right? Yoga doesn't mean you have to do something altogether different, or you have to go to an ashram and live a certain kind of life and perform a set of rituals. Yoga is your attitude in action, whatever the action it be, right? So if you can be truly unselfish in your relationships, it'll be a harmony, it'll be a heaven. If you
can think this way also. When we use word yoga, the yoga itself means connecting with the higher value.
Indeed, it is correct in connecting with the higher value in any field. It doesn't matter what the action is, right? It's the intention, the bhavana that makes it yoga. So in short, to answer your question, absolutely, your relationship, your family, your work is your immediate dharma kshetra.
So, Utsav, I had the same question what Anju asked. But does that mean that we are doing a yoga and then we're still in the samsara? Like you said, if you do the yoga,
you're not doing it in the spirit of yoga, na? You do two things and you're saying, what are you doing for me in return? What am I getting in return? आज मेरा मन नहीं है करने का.
But isn't our duties coming out of attachment only? Because I'm attached to them, I'm doing that duty. I think that is my duty.
No. Your attachment makes you want things in return. Your attachment makes you want them to appreciate your duty. Your attachment makes you want them to change the way you think they should change. Those are all the signs of your attachment. Right?
It doesn't let you take criticism.
Of course, where does your duty lie? Your duty lies in responsibilities you've taken up. And where have you taken up responsibilities where you have attachments? A realized soul has no duties. Nothing binds them. Why? There's no attachments. Yashaturudriyam sogni puto bhavati, surapanat puto bhavati, brahma hatyat puto bhavati. In the Upanishad, it says a realized soul is not bound by anything. He can do anything and get away with it. Nothing binds him. You are bound to things. You have responsibilities. You have duties only because you have attachments. If you have no attachments, you won't have duties.
For a
What
realized,
determines your, let me complete.
Yeah.
What determines your duties? Things you have taken up. Your duties are determined by your vasanas. You are a kshatriya, therefore you have duties. What is your kshatriya bhav? It is your vasanas, it is your attachments, nothing else. You're coming from your past, right? So what you are attached to, you simply take up. And to fulfill that, to just see through that because you've taken it up, is your duty. So whether it's your family, your business, or whatever it be, any relationship, it becomes your duty because there is a past attachment that has. Now, how do you apply yourself in a spirit of detachment? How do you see through this duty in a spirit of detachment? That is yoga. So simply living a family life doesn't mean you are doing yoga, Vandana ji. Right? Are you truly being? Are you truly living in a spirit of yoga, or are you being selfish and attached in your relationship? If you're unselfish and detached in your relationship, you're doing yoga.
Got it. Thank you.
I think attachment makes you heavy. It doesn't allow you to jump up. Unnecessarily, you are attached and.
Let me complete, Omji. I'm having a flow of thought.
Okay. Sorry.
Thank you. So, in a relationship, when you function in a relationship in a spirit of detachment and unselfishness, you are doing yoga. When you function in the spirit of attachment and selfishness, you are not doing yoga. In the same relationship, the same things you may perform. How patient are you with someone else? How kind are you with someone else? How empathetic are you with someone else? You know the answer, or you should know the answer. You should find out the answer, right? So when you're patient, kind, empathetic, understanding, appreciative, unselfish, that's when you're doing yoga. I was going to show you anyway, I'll show it in the next verse. Verse number 50.
As you said, I'm sorry. So as you said that because we are bound, we have our motives. So we have taken up these duties ourselves because we have got into such relations. And so we are doing those duties and therefore there is attachment. So sir, for any grihast, ye to hoga hi.
No, sorry to interrupt. He said because there is attachment, you consider it a duty. Now, how you do your duty is on you, selflessly or selfishly.
Yeah. See, Yashuji, finish your question.
Sir, I'm just wondering, any of my duty which I'm performing, it is not at all without attachment. It is entangled with attachment only. Whether I'm a son, whether I'm a father, whether I'm a boss, it is every because every relation is there with give and take only. That is the honest answer.
See, just because the mass of people function in a certain way doesn't make it the right way to function.
Oh, so I that is why I'm asking this question, because I'm realizing that all my duties are just selfish only.
So, verse number 47, Karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Perform action without a kartritva bhav and a bhoktritva bhav. That is the way to perform your duty. Having a sense of duty is one thing, and actually performing it correctly is another thing altogether. Right? You are conscious of your duty. That's a good thing. A tamasic person is not even conscious of their duty. A tamasic person sees what should not be done as what should be done. They're convinced about it. A rajasic person is confused. That's your state. You're either confused about what to do or you're confused about how to do it. Okay, here you're not confused about what to do maybe, but you're confused about how to do it. A sattvic person is one with knowledge. When knowledge guides you, when you understand, then you know what to do and you also know how to do it. So performing duty is what to do, and how to do it is without kartritva, without bhoktritva. And all of this, why? Only when you understand knowledge, only when you have this panoramic view of life will you appreciate this. Only when you see yourself as a speck in the universe of things, only when you see this life as one episode in a chain of episodes, right? This one incarnation is merely another birth and another death. When you have that kind of panoramic view, automatically you will develop a spirit of detachment in your action. So knowledge is very important. Knowledge is what brings satsangatve nisangatvam, nisangatve nirmohatvam. ज्ञान का जो सत्संग है यही आपको मुक्त करता है. So that's why he very specifically says, united with knowledge, you shed good and bad deeds. You shed vasanas, good and bad vasanas. You shed attachments, you shed entanglements, united with knowledge. Every morning we chant it. बोधोन्य साधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान् मोक्षैक साधनम पाकस्य वनिवज्ञानम विना मोक्षेण सिद्ध्यति. Knowledge is to evolution as fire is to cooking. You can't evolve without knowledge. You can't. And there is no quick fix. There is no jadoo totka. You can't. There's no shortcut. And knowledge doesn't mean mere intellectual knowledge. When knowledge turns to action, when you live it, that's what we're talking about. That is wisdom. When knowledge turns into wisdom, that's when it actually has its effect. So there's no shortcut. Verse number 51. 51, 52, 53. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantya namayam. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishinaha janma bandha vinirmuktaha padam gacchantya namayam. Just 1 second. He says, verse number 51, he says, the wise, united to knowledge, renouncing the fruit of action, liberated from the bond of birth, indeed reach the state beyond evil. Karmajam buddhi yukta, jo buddhi se yukt hai, buddhi yukta, the ones who are united with their intellect to knowledge. renouncing the fruit of action, phalam tyaktva, liberated from the bond of birth, indeed reach a state beyond evil. So those who, in whom this knowledge actually percolates and who are able to imbibe this knowledge in the truest sense, they grow disinterested in the fruit. They happily and easily renounce the fruit of action. It's just like when you grow disinterested. As you grew up from a child to an adult, you grew disinterested in the pleasures of childhood. So you are happy to renounce the fruit of the childish toys. So when you get united with something higher, the lower automatically falls away. United to knowledge, renouncing the fruit of, because when you read it like this, you think, oh my god, itna karna padega. नॉलेज भी यूनाइट करना, नॉलेज से भी यूनाइट करना पड़ेगा, फ्रूट ऑफ एक्शन से भी रिनाउंस करना पड़ेगा. नो, दिस रिनाउंसिएशन इज ऑटोमेटिक वंस यू यूनाइट टू द हायर. And united to knowledge, you renounce the fruit of action, and that is what liberates you from the bond of birth. Uniting to knowledge, growing spiritually is nothing but spiritual evolution through karma bhakti jnana. When you do that, automatically you shed vasanas. Karma yoga reduces the bulk of your vasanas, bhakti yoga improves the quality of your vasanas, jnana yoga shifts the direction of your vasanas. Karma yoga reduces the bulk of your vasanas, bhakti yoga changes the quality of your vasanas, jnana yoga changes the direction of your vasanas. 3 techniques and 3 effects. Automatically you are liberated from this bondage of vasanas. Bondage of birth means you are born into this world only because you have vasanas. You are born into the environment only because of those vasanas. You are born with certain tendencies because of those vasanas. That's the bondage. Your vasanas are the cause for your birth, and your vasanas are the limitations of your birth. You can't be other than your vasanas. That's why it's a bondage. You're stuck with it. मैं ऐसा क्यों हूं? Right? मैं ऐसा क्यों हूं? It's your vasanas. That's why it's a bondage. And once you shed your vasanas, you become free, liberated. There's no longer repeated births and deaths. You reach a state beyond all evil. There's no more devolution after this point. So he's simply talking about the culmination of the spiritual journey. Knowledge is that which and when he uses the word knowledge, he collectively means all the yogas, right? Because the impact of knowledge, the effect of knowledge is the cumulative effect of all the yogas. When you evolve, you reach a state of samadhi. You look at this you can see a pointer. You can see the pointer, yeah. So the yogas, this is a journey of spiritual evolution. It starts with yoga, karma, bhakti, jnana, and it takes you all the way to samadhi, self-realization, enlightenment. So he's saying when you unite with yoga, when you unite with knowledge, it takes you all the way to the stage of samadhi, beyond all evil, beyond birth and death, beyond the bondage of your vasanas. That's what he's saying.
Where does religious practices play in all the yogas? In a karma, bhakti, jnana, where does that come into it?
See, any yoga has its associated practice. A ritual. A ritual is simply a reminder. Okay? Say for example, in the beginning of this class, we mechanically chant a prayer. At one level, it is a mechanical utterance of a certain verse. It's a ritual. It's a religious practice. But it serves as a reminder, and it serves as a sort of invocation to this practice. Similarly, any yajna you perform, when you do a havan, for example, a havan is a yajna. It's a deeply symbolic practice. On the one hand, there is a physical ritual and there are mantras associated with it. But any ritual is of course, has its own temporal effect, no doubt about it. Has a physiological effect, has an effect on a temporary effect on the surrounding. But if you want a ritual to have a permanent effect, if you want to bring about a true transformation, you have to get into the symbolism, the philosophy of the ritual. What is it trying to actually indicate? What is it actually trying to guide you towards? Right? So, ritualistic practices are a part of any of the yogas. You have rituals in karma, you have mostly rituals in bhakti, and there are rituals associated with jnana as well. Right? You can think of rituals as see, it is very difficult to always associate it with philosophy. It is very difficult to always associate with knowledge. You need something to translate into physical action, to serve as reminders. You need a deity, you need a form, you need an inspiration, you need an emotional connection, you need a certain action to be engaged in, to feel part of something. A ritual makes you feel part of a culture. A ritual makes you feel part of a tradition. A ritual brings communities together. A ritual is actually a beautiful method of trying to preserve knowledge in a certain activity. But it is up to you to actually go one step ahead and understand what is the meaning behind this ritual. What is the purpose behind this ritual? The ritual serves its purpose by bringing people together to do a certain kind of action. Right? It has that uniting factor. But beyond that, it's your duty to understand the symbolism and the spirit of the ritual. Right? So, rituals are the beautiful packaging to the invaluable philosophy. We've said this before. The more valuable something is, the more ornate its packaging will be. So this invaluable philosophy has the incredible, beautiful packaging of rituals. Right?
Could you get lost in the rituals and
You can
forget
get lost in
about
ritual. That is karma kanda. That is what
Right.
Adi Shankaracharya has been. That is what Lord Krishna was mocking a couple of verses ago in verse number
Yeah.
43, 44. He's saying people are lost in rituals. Huh?
Sure.
They say, do this yajna and you will be born, a male child will be born to you. Do this yajna and you will have prosperity. It's mindless stuff.
Yeah. And especially if you don't
Some of them
understand.
maybe, I'm not even getting to the efficacy. Maybe some of them are objectively true. I don't know. I'm not an expert in rituals, but maybe it is objectively true that if you do a certain thing, there may be a certain outcome. I don't know the efficacy of these things. But that is being lost in ritual. It is turning ritual into a mundane practice. Right? You've lost the spirit of it. Just as you can get lost in karma also. Just as you can get lost in jnana also. You can get lost in these words and these concepts. And you can develop ego about this. So you can get lost in any stage of the spiritual practice. So there are those who are lost outside the spiritual practice, who are lost in bhoga. Right? Most of us are lost in bhoga. We don't even know what yoga is. And then there are those who come and get stuck in yoga as well. No doubt. In the Ishavasya Upanishad, it says, if you're lost in bhoga, you're in darkness. If you're lost in yoga, you're in deeper darkness. If you're stuck in bhoga, you're in darkness. But if you're stuck in yoga, if you're attached to knowledge, if you're attached to yoga, you're in deeper darkness. Only to remind us that yoga is a means to an end. Yoga serves the purpose of developing uparati, gaining the capacity for dharana, qualifying for dhyana, and attaining samadhi. So, in this particular verse, he talks about this journey. He talks about this journey of yoga. He talks about this journey of yoga all the way till samadhi. He's saying, united to knowledge, they are able to develop the spirit of renunciation and liberate themselves from the bond and attain samadhi. What exactly is that? Verse number 52, 53. We'll take it together. We'll chant it very quickly. maybe spill over 5 minutes beyond time, because I want to complete these two verses before we start the next section. Verse number 52, 53, we'll chant it together. Yada te moha kalilam buddhirvyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Yada te moha kalilam buddhirvyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam shrotavyasya shrutasya cha. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhihi tada yogamavapsyasi. Shruti vipratipannate yada sthasyati nischala samadhavachala buddhihi tada yogamavapsyasi. Verse number 52 and 53 talks a little more in detail about the stages of spiritual growth. He said, through yoga you attain enlightenment. Through yoga, and he's 48 and 50, he talked about what is yoga. Through yoga, you cross over the entanglement and you attain samadhi. He's talked about that. Now he is going to talk about these stages in between. What comes as you develop a spirit of, as you delve into yoga, as you begin to enjoy the fruits of yoga, what actually develops in you. He says, when your intellect will cross the mire of delusion, then you will grow indifferent to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. And when your intellect, perplexed by what has been heard, shall stand immovable and steady in meditation, then you will attain yoga, self-realization, the culmination of yoga. So, when your intellect will cross the mire of delusion, you will grow indifferent to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. Just 1 second. Sorry, 1 second. So he has said, when your intellect crosses the mire of delusion, you will grow indifferent to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. You gain a sense of renunciation. You gain a sense of withdrawal. It's called uparati. The first impact of yoga, the true impact of yoga, is a sense of uparati, a sense of detachment. He uses the word nirvedam for indifference. You have no interest. I got a call the other day. My wife got a call the other day. There is some artist from the USA, some music artist from the USA coming to perform. How do you know you're growing old? You don't even know these people's names. So I'm no longer Gen Z. Who is this person? So they're coming to perform, and my niece wants to be in front of the stage in the standing section. But she's not getting the tickets for it. And she's crying and howling. Nirvedam. I'm explaining what is Nirvedam. You grow indifferent. If you're still crying and howling that you can't attend a concert, then you're a teenager. See, that person is being what is apt for a teenager. They're crying and howling and being moved and affected. Imagine yourself 30 years ago, 40 years ago in that situation. Now you have grown, you have developed. And as a result of your growth, you have grown indifferent. Indifferent here doesn't mean I don't care, but you're just not bothered by it. Right? That is the state of uparati. It's not that you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't have emotions. It doesn't mean that you don't feel what the other person is feeling, but you have just grown beyond it. it doesn't bother you anymore. Just like a teenager is bothered by a concert, a child is bothered by toys. Similarly, an adult is bothered by name, an adult is bothered by reputation, an adult is bothered by maybe their number of digits in their bank balance and what others are saying about them and thinking about them. They are bothered by the clothes they wear or the watches they wear or the cars they drive. These are the toys that make your joys, as Swamiji would say. These are the toys that make your joys. And you're caught up in it. When you have it, you're happy. If you don't have it, there's a sense of anxiety. If you can't get it, there's a sense of disappointment. That's what it is. You're just like that teenager. Just the toys are different. What makes you cry? This party lost the election. Now you're crying about that. Huh? And you're fighting with the other. This party did this thing, this person is silly, this person is stupid, this person is anti-national, this person is pro-national. This is what you're fighting about. These are the things that are bothering you. Once you grow beyond this, you'll grow indifferent to what has been heard and what has not been heard. On the path of yoga, your only and sole interest becomes spiritual evolution, spiritual enlightenment. Everything else takes a backseat. You grow indifferent to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. That is the effect of yoga on your intellect. So your intellect, having crossed over the mire of delusion, nirmoha, you become nirmoha. You grow over delusion. Then you grow indifferent to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. About the general happenings, you become detached. You develop a spirit of uparati. In that spirit of uparati, you're able to concentrate, you're able to meditate. If you are entangled and involved and completely affected by those things that are happening around you, you will not be able to concentrate and meditate. To develop the capacity to concentrate and meditate, you have to develop uparati. That's a prerequisite. If you're an attached and engrossed person, indulgent person, you cannot meditate. Right? So, having developed uparati, when your intellect, perplexed by what has been heard, shall stand immovable and steady in meditation, then you will attain yoga. So, a person who has attained uparati, a person who has attained a sense of withdrawal becomes qualified for concentration and meditation. You're able to hold your thoughts in a certain place. You're able to keep your thoughts steady without your mind jumping from one place to another. That is a capacity, that is the qualification of a spiritually evolved person. You're able to keep your head about you. And in this state, when your intellect, perplexed by what has been heard, on the one hand, this knowledge itself is perplexing. Right? That is what pushes you further. It gives you a push on the spiritual journey. Your sense of inquiry gives you a push on the spiritual journey. On the other hand, in the state of meditation, they say that in between sound and silence, you're chanting a mantra and then pausing. You're chanting a mantra and then pausing. The chant of the mantra is the only thing you're focused upon. There is a sound, then you pause. There's a silence. Sound, silence, sound, silence, until the chant slowly dies away into whispers. All that remains is silence. And that silence is perplexing to the intellect. That silence is perplexing to the intellect. It loses itself. So he is referring to that experience in the depth of meditation, when your intellect is completely perplexed in the ocean of silence. There's nothing else to observe. It stands immovable and steady in meditation. Then you attain yoga. So in this depth of meditation, you attain self-realization. Meditation is the gateway to self-realization. It's the technique, it's a scientific technique with which you attain the state of samadhi. Meditation is the art of keeping your mind in single pointed thought to the exclusion of all thoughts. That's the definition of meditation. The definition of meditation is keeping the mind in single pointed thought to the exclusion of all thoughts. You're able to hold your mind in a single thought, and your observant intellect is able to dismiss any other distractions. Try it. Try it and see if you can last for more than 30 seconds. When you're able to last for hours and hours and hours, you're a qualified meditator. You are going to be able to meditate only when you have a general concentration, you have a dharana, and you will have general concentration only when you have a sense of withdrawal and uparati, a disinterest in everything else that you're constantly hearing. Because the world is full of noise, the world is full of entanglements, the world is full of things that are happening and not happening. If your thought is there, if your complete engagement and entanglement is there, then you won't be able to do dharana. So from uparati comes dharana, from dharana comes dhyana, and through dhyana you attain samadhi, you attain self-realization. That is the spiritual journey. For most of us, we are between bhoga and yoga. If the rest doesn't make sense right now, don't worry. I'm a little confused about what you said about dharana and dhyana. It sounds a little spooky. Okay. If dharana and dhyana sound spooky to you, don't worry. Yoga itself is very pleasurable. Yoga itself will uplift your life to a great extent. See, most people, when you talk about upariti, they get scared. Are you going to take me away from my family? Are you going to take me away from those my near and dear ones? No one is here to take you away. But you need a deeper understanding or a deeper appreciation for samadhi to appreciate what is uparati, to appreciate what is dharana. If that is not fully making sense to you, don't worry. Yoga itself will lift you and elevate your life far superior to bhoga. Bhoga, the state of indulgence, leads you to stress, strain, worry, anxiety, entanglement, all sorts of ailments. That's bhoga. A bhogi is described in the scriptures to be a very ugly person. I was in the flight to Bangkok the other day, and for those of you who go to Bangkok, you know why half the people go to Bangkok. It's a center of indulgence. Okay. And next to me in the flight came this man, not very old, maybe about 12 years older than I, maybe in the mid 40s, and strangely obese. Strangely obese. And he was going to Bangkok to have fun. That's what he said. He's going to Bangkok to have fun. He's sitting in the window seat. I felt bad, Then my wife changed her seat and I emptied the middle seat and he needed some space. He wanted to go to the bathroom. So I got up. The man couldn't lift himself off the seat. He had to slide all the way till the side, and then I had to lift the side handle, and he had to make a couple of attempts to actually get up. What's he going to do in Bangkok? He's going to have some fun. Indulgence ruins you mentally, physically. That's what it does. So far superior to bhoga, far superior to indulgence is yoga. A life of regulation, a life of discipline, a life of knowledge, because it helps you regulate, moderate, and enjoy life rather than bhoga. Through yoga there is bhoga, truly. Through a path of bhoga there is only suffering. So only when you develop a spirit of yoga do you truly actually enjoy. And the further benefits of yoga are all the way up to samadhi. That will make sense to you in time. You'll develop an appreciation and a eagerness to attain that in time. Yoga itself is far, far uplifting. Even if you come to a life of yoga, it is far superior to what 90% of the world is currently living, physically and mentally, both, more mentally as well. The state of attachment and bhoga is terrifying. the state of detachment in yoga is beautiful, is liberating. You'll have the most beautiful relationships and you'll have the most beautiful experiences when you live a life of yoga. So with that spirit, with that thought, we'll conclude today. Sorry for shooting over time, but I wanted to finish this section. In the next class, we'll start the last section of chapter 2. It's called Sthita Prajna. Arjuna is about to ask a question and the Lord is going to answer his question in the next 18 verses. And it's a beautiful section, so don't miss it. We'll see you again on Thursday when we'll start Sthita Prajna, verse number 54 to 72 of chapter 2. Thank you so much and see you on Thursday morning.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you. Hari
Thank
Om.
you, sir. Thank you.
Hari Om. Thank you.